Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Today, I'm really happy to have this wonderful, amazing, soulful woman, Joyce Collins, to join me in discussing her book. The book just came out. It's called The Way of Reckoning. Um, Joyce has been writing poetry since when she was 15, and most of it is sad, much of it is philosophical, but all of it are very insightful, even though she didn't yet have the ability to understand the insight at the time that she was writing these. The Way of Reckoning begins with her discovery at age of 37 that she is an incest survivor. Her psyche coped with that trauma by slipping into two: a child who experienced every moment of the abuse, and another child who knew nothing of it. And in her book, Miss America by Day, Marilyn Van Derbur, also an incest survivor, calls these personas the night child and the day child. Neither Joyce, night child, nor day child knew the other exists until her repressed memories surfaced since 20 years after the abuse ended. So I'm really delighted and honored to have her on the show and talk to you about her journey as an incest survivor and what brought her here. And also, she is a certified life coach now. So I would love to have you learn more about her journeys. Thank you so much for joining me, Joyce. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you
So,
for having me, Michelle.
congratulations on your book, because I know we connected last year, and you were telling me about the book that you're publishing. I'm really excited.
Yes.
So, tell us about. I wanted to go back a little bit to your childhood, because even when I was connecting with you, I have learned and found out that you're an incest survivor. I
Yes.
didn't understand what that term means. What does that mean?
What does incest survivor mean?
Mm-hmm.
Incest is sexual abuse by a family member. In my case, it was my father. And a survivor means much what it would for a cancer survivor. I survived physically and I survived psychologically, and some people don't. So a lot of people might say I'm an incest victim, but I don't think of myself that way because I survived and I have healed. And now I'm thriving as a life coach. So I don't identify myself as a victim.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think what for me to learn something. This is something that a child experience that no child should be experiencing.
So
So
I agree.
it was really hard for me to understand, this actually even exists, and I'm sure it's out there and people don't talk about it.
They don't talk about it enough. I think it's a lot more common than is portrayed in the news.
Mm-hmm. So what inspired you to write this book? I mean, you've been writing poetry since you were 15. What was it like?
I when I was writing at 15, I kept it to myself. I felt it was very private, and I kept it that way till about 2002, when something in me thought, I want to help others who've had this experience, and maybe my words will give expression to feelings that they haven't been able to give work to. And I found that's exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I started my publishing company, Truth Teller Publishing. I did that kind of for two reasons. One, I didn't want to be rejected. So I started to publish my own work. And also, it just had been a dream of mine to start a publishing company called Truth Teller Publishing. So I did that, and I published my first book, which was called I Carry It Like Luggage, which I wrote before my memory surfaced. And then after my memory surfaced, I wrote this book, The Way of Reckoning.
Mm-hmm.
The Way of Reckoning is the title poem of the book, and it describes the experience of actually remembering, the memory surfacing, my mind coming back together, and all of that trauma coming to the conscious level. So that's what that's about.
Mhm. Can you, is it okay if you read the poem?
Oh, I'd love to read the poem. Love to read the poem. Okay. Let's see here.
I think the audience would love to hear the poem because I think a lot of us getting bound into at home. You know, we're trying to
Yes.
find out a way to entertain ourselves, and I think this is a perfect timing to be inspired. And this is a great poem, the Way of Reckoning.
Yes. Okay. The Way of Reckoning. Reptiles drop their tails in fright and live to grow another. Humans split the limb alike, but bind it with a tether. So long and thin as time goes by, we think of it as other. But memory grows its tendrils out from wounded limb to well, and bides its time till boundary thins and tendrils touch is felt. Then all hell breaks loose, or that's the way it seems, as tendrils hook, then pull apart the self I know as me. A foulness spills out my bowels and takes my life force with it. Where food once fed is nauseous dread, my stomach yields its content. My head is racked with migraine pain, and fear is strong for madness. All these confuse and misery bring, but none compare the sadness. Illness, say doctors, nay, I know the past is beckoning. I am not sick from bug or germ. It is the way of reckoning. To tell the tale and tell it whole, each unto the other, until they realize they are we, and we are the survivor.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
I think what it resonate for me is as you're reading the poem, I was imagining this little tiny seed that was sprouting, coming out. It's a journey of very painful memories,
Mm-hmm.
the suffering, but at the same time, there's hope.
Yes. Yes. And I think I'm saying the way of reckoning is to remember. It is to feel, to join those two parts of myself together that were split,
Mm-hmm.
to become whole again.
Yeah. What was it like in that moment of time when you realized that when the memories start surfacing? What was it like in that moment of time? I'm sure there was a lot of struggling and pain, but I I don't know that. And I think
Well, it was traumatic. It was traumatic. I was reliving it. The first memory actually came while I was asleep. And I won't call it a dream because it was as clear as if I were, watching a video. I had a video camera on my head. And I, sat bolt upright in bed, my heart pounding and thinking that's the worst nightmare I've ever had in my life. And then I went back to sleep and nothing happened for a month. And a month later, I had another dream just like it. And I went, okay, that's not just a nightmare, something's going on. And then I started to have flashbacks, memories coming, while I'm awake and conscious. So that's how it came to me. And I was pretty much non-functional for about 2.5 years.
and you were in your 20s, right?
No, I was 37.
37 when it happened.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So from age of 15 all the way to 37, what was the memory just getting blocked out? Like, was it so
Yes.
traumatic that it
Yes.
just didn't remember? Okay.
Yeah, had no clue. I was very depressed. I had periods where I was suicidal. I just, I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought I was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And when the memories first started coming back, I understood, where the depression came from, why I was suicidal. And at first, I preferred to think I was crazy than to believe that this happened to me. That was preferable in my mind. Now that I've gone through the healing process, I know I'm not crazy, and I have no desire to think so.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the poems in the book, and if I may kind of jump ahead,
Sure.
it's called the it was titled let me pull it up.
Is it the one you told me about before we started?
Yes, it would even
Okay, my
like I
father taught
jumped
me
ahead.
plenty.
Yeah,
Yes.
because that poem really say a lot about that memory when they surface and
Hmm.
the relation to the father. And so the title of the poem is called My Father Taught Me Plenty.
Yes. Okay. My father taught me plenty, although he doesn't know me, although he doesn't know it. He taught myself to hate me, to love, but not to show it. My father taught me distance and the judgment it implies. He taught me to fear weakness and the consequence it buys. My father taught me doing, to from my feelings hide. It is from him I'm fleeing, though he has long since died. And I should say, to the best of my knowledge, he is still physically alive. And he was obviously alive when I wrote this. So when I say, though he has long since died, I mean that in the sense that he's no longer a physical threat to me, but he was in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say, it is from him I'm fleeing, though he has long since died, that little girl is still in my head, and the terrifying monster that I remember him being was still in my head. And that was the way of reckoning, was realizing I am no longer that little girl, and he is no longer that monster. I'm safe now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For someone who may be watching and who may either they know someone who's going through the experience or they actually have this type of experience, what advice, we're asking advice now, what advice?
Well, now, as a coach, I don't give advice.
Yes, I knew that was coming. I know.
I know it. You know better than to ask that. I don't give advice, but
Yeah, exactly. What would
um,
you tell them?
I think the book will give words to feelings that perhaps you haven't been able to express, perhaps bring up some concepts that you haven't thought of, ways of healing you haven't thought of, and definitely you'll know you're not alone. I'd like to read some poems to communicate that you're not alone.
That would be great. That would be
All
perfect.
right.
I think that's a really important feeling for people to cultivate, that
Mm-hmm.
you are not alone. And especially when we're dealing with something that's very challenging. And even now, as people are staying homebound and they're doing social distancing, there's a lot of emotion that comes up. But the idea is you have to understand that you are not alone in this, and there's plenty of help. And all you have to do
Mm-hmm.
is step out and just be vulnerable and start asking for help.
Okay, the first one I'd like to read is called Haunted.
Okay.
It's inspired by my younger sister, who had the same experience I did with my father. She has since passed, but I, of course, have my memories. I didn't know what was going on with her either, since I didn't know what was going on with me, but I knew she was very unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
Haunted by the memories of what I saw, of what I did, of what I did nothing about, of guilt, of shame, of horrible, horrible helplessness, hers and mine.
Mm-hmm.
I have since been able to let go of that guilt and shame, but I'm sure a lot of people can relate to it. The next one I would like to read, it's called Deaf Until I Listen. I tried to make her see it, this wounded child of mine. Nothing is as it was. There's no reason for the pain. But she is deaf until I listen, rigid until I yield, all-consuming until I surrender, lame until I bridge the gap and walk it back again. Mm. And so this wounded child of mine is literally, my night child that endured and survived to tell the story to me, the adult Joyce, so we could heal and join again. And when the memories first came, they were not welcome. You know, I did not want to hear it. I did not want to feel those feelings. I did not want to know what happened to me. You know, she was wrecking my life. She was wrecking my life. But when I say she is deaf until I listen, she's not going to be quiet. I'm, okay, everything's fine now. I'm not going to tell you what happened. No, you need to listen. You need to listen, and you need to come get me and bring me into the present. So that's what that's about.
So what's your relationship to the night child now?
You know, we're together. We're together. We're one.
How did you come to that place where this is my night child and it's okay? And you brought up shame and guilt, and a lot of what we're going through surfaces a lot of shame and guilt. How did you come across that bridge where, you know, this is my night child, it's okay, I'm gonna walk with my night child?
It was not a one-time thing. It was like building a relationship with anyone. I had to build a relationship with her. There was a lot of forgiving that had to go on. A lot of forgiving that had to go on. Forgiving of her for what she did to survive. I know a lot of people have guilt about what they did to survive. I had that too. And, you know, I guess she would be angry at me for not coming to get her sooner. So it's like building a relationship with anyone and healing a relationship with anyone. As a matter of fact, I'd like to read a poem called Healing. See if I can find that. Of course I can. Find it in there. And it's exactly what you said. You know, how does that happen? Well, it is an iterative process.
I'm sure it was not easy. And like you said, it takes time. And I think a lot of people, you know, for those of people who's watching it as a replay, you know, we all have that tendency, wanted to get to the result right away. We want to see the difference. We want to see the outcome. You know, we want something to happen right away. If I'm having this painful memory, how do I get rid of it? And people want to get rid of it.
You have to feel it.
Yeah.
You have to feel it. You really do. I have a science and math background. So sometimes I put science and math words in my poems. So I'll just tell you, there's one in this one. The word delta means change in math. I'm sure you know that, you know, being a pharmacist. So the word delta means change. And usually it's a small change. So healing is an iterative process, a progressive probing hex. The first step is agony, followed by arrest. Successive steps improved by the delta, agony minus X.
What is X for you?
In math, X is a variable. Well, a variable means it can be anything. If you're not a math person, you could say agony minus fruit. And the fruit could be an apple or a pear. So when I say improved by the delta, agony minus X, it's some tiny increment. You feel one hair better each time. But it's iterative, so you start back over. And I describe it as a progressive probing hex. Progressive because you do make progress in healing. Probing because you're going into the wound. And a hex, because you think of a hex as, or at least I do, as like a kind of a spell or a curse. It may feel like a curse at the time. You know, sometimes getting better, healing is painful in itself, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
I love how you use the word curse, because as I was going through my journey, you know, it felt like it was a curse. What had happened to me was a curse. it only happened to me because it's a curse. Otherwise,
Mhm.
why would it have even happen to me? So I can totally relate to that, you know, this is a curse. But when you step out of it, you realize, and which is why I love the title of your the poem that we read, My Father Taught Me Plenty,
Mhm.
because that title almost it resonated with me in terms of the resilience, the strength, and almost a sense of forgiveness. You know, whatever happened to myself and to this event, or in this case, your father,
Mhm.
there's a sense of forgiveness that yes, you know, had this not happened, had this event not happened, I wouldn't become the person who I am today. Without the
Yes.
experience, I'm not the same
Mhm.
person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's only recently, I'd say in the last 6 months or so, that I was able to forgive him. And so many people would tell me, you know, you need to forgive him, not for him, for you. And uh, I just thought, I don't know how I can do that. And frankly, I don't have a desire to. You know, my desire was to just basically be happy, go on with my life. But I was able to do that when I was able to let go of the anger. And I write about that in my blog on my coaching website. There's a 3-part blog on a poem called The Many Eyes in Me. And I think it would be great. Do I have that one in here? Gosh, I hope I do.
And if you don't, then that's okay too, because you can visit Joyce on her website at joycecollinscoaching.com.
Right.
And she has a
But
blog.
yes. Gosh, I can't believe it. It looks like I didn't put it in here. But the book is on truthtellerpub.com. Truthtellerpub.com. So let me read some more.
So moving forward, Joyce, I'm curious, what would you say your future look like? Let's project to the future a little bit.
You know, when I left the corporate world almost 2 years ago, I kind of had a little going away luncheon. And one of my friends said to me, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" And I said, "Happy." So that's what my future looks like.
What's
Happy.
what's happy? How do you define happy?
You know, happy is it's what I am now. I love my life. I love waking up every day. I spend my days the way I want to. Coaching is rewarding. Poetry is rewarding. The relationships in my life are rewarding. And I've let go of fear. I've just let go of fear.
Mhm. It's so beautiful the way that you describe it, you know, and I can feel the happiness coming from you. And I think every one of us have so many different definitions of being happy, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's unimaginable when someone say, "Oh, I wake up in the morning, I feel happy," and it's just, how do you
Well,
wake
I
up?
couldn't imagine it for a long, long time.
Yeah.
For a long, long time. I thought for probably most of my life that I had some unhealable wound, you know, and I've learned that that is a myth. All wounds can be healed. All wounds can be healed. I'd like to read a poem entitled Fear.
Yes, please. And fear is my specialty.
Yeah, okay. Fear. I carry it like luggage. It is heavy and a burden, but I need it, I think, lest I cast my lot completely in favor of joy. So I'm kind of poking fun at myself there.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm also being serious because I know uh, it's scary to claim joy. It's scary to hope, but I didn't find joy until I let go of fear.
How do you let go of fear? I think that is the most common question I get
Mm-hmm.
working with a client. They want to get rid of it. They want to avoid fear. They want to eliminate it. They want to just basically let it go. Like,
Fear is a feeling like any other feeling. Um, I think for me, I was afraid of feeling pain. I was afraid that if I felt the pain that was in me, I would, I thought I would die. You know, I thought I just wouldn't be able to bear it, or I would go into a flashback and not come out. I used to panic when I started to have flashbacks. And for a long time, I took, anxiety medications prescribed by a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, I got off those, and I committed to feeling my feelings. I was in therapy for several years, and I also had a coach. So it was a combination of all of that. Again, it's not, it's not overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Not overnight. It's simply a commitment. But I'll give you an example, and you can read about this in my blog too. But I had so many disastrous relationships with men, as you can imagine, as a result of my experience with incest. And shortly before my memory surfaced, the last experience was just so devastating. I said, I'm done. I'm done. And I blamed that part of me that wanted to have a romantic relationship. I just lock you in a box, go to sleep, and that's it. And I was happy for about 17 years. And then part of me kind of woke up and said, well, I actually kind of would like to. And the rest of me was like, no, you remember what happened? It was a nightmare. So again, you can read about that on my blog, but long story short, I am in a relationship now. And when it first started, part of me started to get scared, because I felt good and this person's important to me. And I started to think about, how much I could hurt if he did this or said that, and started thinking, this is why I locked myself away. And, I consciously stopped myself. I said, that's my old way of thinking, and I am going to choose not to. So I ended up writing my latest poem. It's untitled, but I will recite it for you.
Thank you.
A wise one once told me, hold lightly to things. So I open to the music your flight in my life brings. Oh, excuse me. My joy, my song is the joy of caressing your wings. So what is that meaning? I open to the music your flight in my life brings. I think of people coming in my life brings music. They bring experiences and feelings, and just coming into my life, those experiencing and feelings are a gift, and their wings are their free will. He might lose interest in me. I might lose interest in him. He might, for whatever reason, decide to leave, but that doesn't change the beauty of the experiences we've had. It doesn't take the value of the relationship we had away. The experience itself is worthwhile. And so my joy is my song, my song is the joy of caressing your wings. So imagine a bird, instead of, oh, this bird is so wonderful to me, instead of, holding on tight, I'm caressing their wings, appreciating the free will that brought this beautiful person into my life.
I love it. It's so beautiful. And it really speaks a lot about the relationship that we're all in, no matter if it's a romantic relationship or even with a job, it's just allowing to have that experience, and just simply, the word that I typically like to use is the flow. Being in that space and just allowing yourself to flow in that experience, and whatever it comes and it surfaces, it's all part of our feelings, just like happiness, fear is also part of our feelings. We have a couple of minutes left. So what do you feel that the world needs?
Well, I'd like to read a couple more poems before I answer that.
Okay, that would be great.
Okay. Here we go. This is a poem about going inside to find myself, to heal my wounds. It's so popular and so easy to look outside ourselves, whether it's food or drink or distraction, you know, anything to not feel or to feel better. I never thought to live in my house, to renovate the rooms. I only sought to get out, to live in something new. 10 times I left, 10 times I built that house again the same, from breakfast nook to ceiling fan, from brick to window pane. In my rage, I tore it down, stripped it to the frame, and in the end, found myself out through a door that opened in.
It's amazing.
Okay, one more. This is the last poem in the book. I am not who I've been, the person you know. I've been a shadow, a ghost in a show. The color of appropriate, the tune of just right, the shape of fits in, the line of insight. Now I am Nova, brilliantly bright, life-changing color, sight-seeking light. My moments are chock full, the realest of real. I think what I think, I feel what I feel. Sometimes I look back at how I was then, those lessons I relearned again and again. Those rules I created had hemmed me in. Thanks to the tearing, I'm not who I've been.
That's so beautiful.
So I'm showing appreciation for the wounds in my life. I'm showing appreciation for the tearing because it freed me from the rules I created for myself about who I could be, what I could think, and what I could feel, and how I could live.
And would you say that would be the main message for people the reader who's reading your book?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Taking those words, you are not the person who you have been. You are the person who you are now.
Yes. I am the person I was created to be.
That's amazing. That's so beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. What would be your last word that you would like to share with the audience?
All wounds are healable. The idea that there are some wounds that are just too deep to be healed is a myth, and it's a very popular one. And I say that because, you know, I had as deep a wound as a person can get. I know there are people who've had wounds just as deep through the similar or the same experience, or maybe something totally different. But the human spirit is resilient. It can heal. Don't give up.
That's so beautiful. I think it's so needed, you know, don't give up. So needed right now as people are experiencing a lot of challenges in their life. You know, some people are actually losing their job or they're get delayed. Don't give up. You know, no matter how big or small that wound may be, it can be healed.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Joyce, for joining me. This has been an inspirational Wednesday for myself. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. I do want to let your audience know the paperback version is available on Amazon. And I'm also working on an ebook version. It should be out in 2-3 weeks.
Awesome. Yay. And the publishing company that you were mentioning is called Truth Teller?
Truth Teller Publishing. The website is truthtellerpub, all one word, .com.
Yes. And I will link it for everyone so that you have easy access. And thank you so much Joyce, for coming, and thank you so much for watching the replay. I have such a difficult time doing technical issues, so thank you so much for watching the replay. And if you're interested to find Joyce, her link is at joycecollinscoaching.com. I will include that link. And in the meantime, please stay healthy and stay home. And may everyone have a great, fabulous Wednesday. And I will see you next week on Wednesday at Coffee Talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.